Welcome to the AI Adoption Podcast. In this episode, I'm talking to Jan Werner from Instaffo. Instaffo is a hiring platform from Germany with 90-ish employees. And in this episode, we talk about especially the ways of working, how they were, how they have changed now in a very, very detailed way so that you can think about yourself how this would feel in your work if you would work this way. We are also touching the topics of incentives and motivation, why to adopt AI at all, and also how the process is going, where they are right now. They've started 2 years ago and they're still changing lots of things. And of course, we also talk about who is coding, who's shipping code, why, and if that's actually the job of a product manager at all or not. Enjoy the episode, and of course, like always, reach out to me with your opinion and comments and anything that you would like to share. Hello, Jan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you finally, right? So we were I was following your work online on LinkedIn for quite some time, especially now that you're sharing more and more stuff about how to work with AI and stuff. And I'm very, very happy that you said yes to my question if you would like to talk to me about AI adoption at Instaffo. But maybe we will start with that. Maybe you would like to introduce yourself so that everyone who watches this knows who you are and what you do and where. And we stopped in the middle of a conversation, so maybe you would want to continue on that.
Let's do it. So my name is Jan. I live in Hamburg, Germany. I'm a product manager for 10-ish years. I started off as at a company here in Hamburg after my studies in media economics and media science. And actually, I jumped into product because I think I was one of the strongest stakeholders, which made me kind of to qualify for that. So move the needle myself instead of complaining. Right now, I'm a senior or lead product manager now at Instaffo. We have we are a smaller company, I would say, 90-ish people. Half of it is actually product and tech. I own part of the product, but I also coach and support the other product managers in their journey. So I mentioned Instaffo already. Instaffo is actually a recruiting marketplace that is focusing on German talents and bring together talents from tech, sales, marketing, and finance to the right employers. So it's a typical two-sided marketplace where we have the challenge of demand from both sides. And when I joined Instaffo around 2 years ago, actually, I was very surprised to find an organization that had already changed itself a lot. And what struck me most is the access to every kind of data I would like to have. It's this kind of marketplace is really collecting data for a lot of time. It's very open. Everyone can access every data, which also comes with the cost of you have to understand it all. But this is especially in terms of AI adoption, very cool because we have the basics for all the context you would need to do product development. I actually forgot completely to talk a bit about myself, introduce myself a little bit. So Hamburg is the one thing I mentioned. So I'm working remotely from Hamburg. I live here with my wife and my little dog who might bark throughout the session or not. Nobody knows. But
then we will say hi, bark back.
And so my free time is usually caught up, if not with tinkering with AI. It's more I don't call myself a runner, but I like to run and do marathons and ultra marathons, which I think is something I need to do because I sit the whole day and I then need to move the rest of the day. I really enjoy that, especially during Corona. I started to run a lot and finished my first ultra marathon, which is just a little bit more than a marathon, in 2023. And since then, I just got older, not better. But still, it's the thing I'd like to do to keep the balance between working and sitting, staring at a screen, and moving the body. And I think one thing I'd like to share is in general, my curiosity for tools and new things. I think that helps me a lot right now because there's so much stuff happening. Every week, actually, something new is appearing, like new models, new tools, new whatever. new like connections between tools that you couldn't imagine before, and it's could be quite overwhelming if you're not too interested in it. But yeah, that's actually what's driving me as well
Yes.
to talk about AI and AI adoption, AI in product management, because it's like it's so crazy what's happening.
Yes. And that's absolutely going to be part of our conversation, like how you make those decisions and in what to select, like your tool choice, but like not just the tool choice itself, but how you made that decision to go with this one. Because every week there's something new, right? So next week there might be something that would replace every tech stack that you have selected for the company, right? But let's start from the beginning. So this podcast is supposed to talk about non-big tech companies and their AI adoption journey. There are many companies in Europe that are not big tech and want to adopt AI. They struggle even with the definition of what that means. What does it mean to adopt AI? There are multiple levels to that. And then once they agree what that means for their company, they are looking for a starting point and they are looking for inspirations how to continue and what all these details actually mean. Some of them are in the middle of it and need inspiration for the next steps, and some of them are gone through it and now they're looking at the lessons learned and try to make sense of it, what they should do. So that's why I've decided to talk with people about exactly this AI adoption journey who've gone through that with their company. Jan, you're one of those people who went through that, like not only you, but you and your company went through AI adoption. And so I'm very curious, maybe let's talk about how this whole topic evolved, and maybe you can take us from start to the point where you are right now in a very brief way so that we know where are you in this stage now.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I joined Instaffo, I already noticed that they are a step further than the previous company I was with. So there was a lot of AI topics being discussed. I think there's like two main parts. One is like this grassroots. Everyone was just using AI because it was more accessible. Like, for example, people have their own ChatGPT free accounts. They use them for work. People try to use new tools. They use, I don't know, good, summary tools for customer calls and this kind of stuff starts popping left and right because it's just useful. And in product and engineering, we saw engineers adopting Cursor, for example, and using Cursor on their own. So like it evolved by itself. So people start using tools, and you can actually only do two things, like either restrict it or like encourage them to do it more. And also in the product itself, there were already 1-2 AI features that have been implemented like on an experimental basis, where like we plugged into OpenAI's API directly and just trying to improve the user journey a little bit. But it was not really like very structured. But that's also what I liked about it, because it's actually gave me the chance to explore more of these tools. So previously I had not, created my own custom GPTs, but learning at Instaffo, I was also encouraged to, do it because it would make life easier. So one example that we
So that was 2024,
yes,
right?
2024, correct.
Yes.
So there's like we had some custom GPTs. We had some people had ChatGPT accounts from the company account. Some had their like own free versions. So everyone was like doing a little bit, and then we started kind of seeing this pattern that it makes people like easier, makes work easier for people. And there, to be honest, why would you ever draft a complete email to a customer if you're a customer facing person? Why would you ever write it on your own if you have the full context in text in the CRM? And spend like 20 to 30 minutes on one email. So that doesn't actually make sense, and people like were saving their time anyway. So then there was like a lot of sharing. So we did some kind of lunch and learns where we would share different workflows. for example, I built this custom GPT that knows our tone of voice and how we address genders and stuff towards customers and users and talents, which we all have in the wiki, like in Confluence. And this custom GPT would know all this context, and I can just give it some, text, and it would rephrase it so it sounds like the tone of voice of Instaffo, which was very handy because at the time we were a bit of struggling with how to keep the user copy consistent. Because everyone changes a little bit of it, and then you have like different wordings all over the product. That was the basic need, and then we kind of could adopt this custom GPT just for every customer interaction. Well, the problem pretty quickly appeared that these custom GPTs are kind of a silo, right? So you have it in the GPT, and it's quite hard, and it's quite hard to get this, accessible to everyone. There were ways to do this kind of custom actions that it would create an email in your inbox. They made it easier throughout the previous months, but still, like, we were not able to deploy to the whole company because it was kind of my GPT. This one of the examples, and also in terms of feature development, then the first person came along and said, yeah, we're using OpenAI API, but for this task, I would like to use a Gemini 2.5 Flash because it's cheaper and faster. So it's like, okay, what do we do? Like, integrate another API, or can we do something else?
There it starts, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this was kind of the way we started, and I mentioned the lunch and learns. There was also a lot of encouragement from like team leads and leadership to just do it, right? There was no real restrictions. There were some basics, and I think we're going to talk about that later as well, like in terms of security and stuff that were shared. But other than that, there were no like restrictions, rather encouragement to go ahead. And yeah, so this is how it basically started, and then we more or less professionalized, I would say. And yeah, so again, I think a lot of people were involved in it, so we could find a way to give everyone access to LLMs through a central way. So right now, for like everyone who's like more customer facing or like more text based work, is using LangDoc. Which just gives us or everyone access to all the models, and we can centrally orchestrate which models are enabled for the workspace and which not. All of those are hosted in Europe, or at least they make sure that the hosting is in Europe, and we can actually kind of orchestrate a little bit that everyone has access. And through LangDoc, we can not only share the agents, but everyone can create their own agents if they want. Agent is basically the same as a custom GPT was, but with the addition that you can connect it to other tools via MCP. And it's surprising that people just start creating these things because they're useful. Like people start connecting this to their Asana and do content, LinkedIn post ideas, and they're added to Asana, and then you can work from there. Or they connect their email accounts and so on. Yeah, so this is the one part where everyone who's like more I would say customer facing, or at least like more text based work is working with. The other big area is certainly the development part. So the whole development section, and also product managers and designers are encouraged to use Cloud Code. So we started quite early. I mean, what means early, I don't know, but like I would say like a 9 month ago, we did the first Cloud Code. I mean, Cloud Code just turned 1 year, so like pretty soon after it was released, we were at a point where I could actually ask the code base questions of how it's working, which is really helpful, because otherwise you would just have to ask the backend developers like, hey, when is this email triggered and under what conditions do these features appear or whatever, which would cost time. I mean, and usually you would get an answer that's not like maybe not 100% correct, but it's like the last thing they remember. And with Cloud Code, I was immediately able to just know the truth, right? So it would just translate the code into language that I can understand, because I'm 100% non-technical. So yeah, so this is something then we try to encourage every product manager and designer actually to do it, because every question you ask how a feature functions is either already documented or you can find it out yourself. It's very helpful. So most of us work in the terminal all the time, like using some proxy like Cursor or Warp or whatever. And Codebase is not the only example, but what really helped is that everyone's like kind of getting access to Cloud Code through the API keys, not separate accounts. So one problem that we faced previously is that if everyone has their own subscription from different tools, then you have like a lot of chaos in the finance department, because they start paying like $17 subscriptions every month or whatever. So it helps really to consolidate it, and lowers the barrier to actually start using something like Claude. And then I think the other layer I mentioned is like the product itself was using different channels, like OpenAI API, and also wanted to use Gemini, and that's actually where we started to create our own LLM API layer, so that we could actually just plug in our like feature ideas, and then it have access to all the LLMs that we want to use. There's some more stuff to it I'd like to talk about, but maybe we can get to that later.
Yeah, and then also that's a very, very nice segue to something that I'm burning to ask. It already touches the topic ways of working.
Mm-hmm.
We plug in, we have this middle layer, we just enter all our ideas, and then it has access to the models. That's one part of it. So I'm curious now, explaining this. First of all, to me, it sounds like a 2 years journey to actually come to the point that you are orchestrating LLM in order to fuel your ways of working, in order to be helpful for you enough to generate some real benefits. Is that right, or was this first benefit point actually earlier?
Yeah, I think there was like
when was that the first benefit? Where you all said like, wow.
Yeah, I think that's like everyone for itself. I think that's one of the main things everyone needs to convince themselves. So you can't convince people to just use AI. So they really need to make it. You need to make it tangible for every one of them, or you need to make it tangible for yourself that this is saving you time. And if not that, it's more fun than before. But I mean, for me personally, it was like creating user copy, as I mentioned, like in the product, like what's on the button, because I'm like one of the I'm the German speaker in the team, so every German copy is like, it has basically my translation in it. It's so annoying to do it. It takes so much time to find the best copy, and German, is the worst language for it, because you have these very long words, and so just using this and describing what I want in English or German or whatever, and then asking for like 5, 6, 7 copies is already saved me a lot of time. And actually right now, I mean, I started doing that like nearly 2 years ago. Right now, it doesn't bother me to do copy anymore, because like previously it was like, oh no, I still have to do the copy. I hate it. And now it's like, it just happens. And it evolved, right? Previously, like 2 years ago, you couldn't do that in Figma. Now Figma can actually do the translations, even though they're not good, because in German also you have this formal, informal language, which is a bit complicated for Figma if they don't know the context. But it doesn't bother me anymore. So it takes a lot of burden from me in my daily tasks.
And that's on an individual level, right? So what's on the business level? When was the first time that on the business level Instaffo said, wow, now we're seeing some real benefit? May it be productivity increase, may it be revenue wise or cost wise, like some sort of a business benefit. How long did it take to get there?
Yeah, I think it's very hard to put a number on it, or or a stamp, like this is when we noticed it. But I think everyone's just capable of a bit more in general. Like that's the baseline. So we are I come from a scenario when I started working like 12 years ago. It was more like customer success, and there was a lot of effort, manual effort, to manage customers, to have this conversation with customers, to write everything down in a CRM and so on. And with all these things approaching left and right, like for example, HubSpot having the option to like give you a summary of the account in like 5 seconds, you don't have to scroll through it. And all these improvements make you like capable of more anyway. So that's why it's going up gradually, even though you don't really notice it happening. And I think like one thing that really helped me out, and I already had this thought. Not sure if this is the right spot, but what's a real bottleneck, or was a real bottleneck for me, is having access or getting data analytics, having a data analyst look at some things that are a bit too complex for me, like more than just a chart. So previously I would have this question, I would elaborate the question, I would like share this question in a task or a ticket. And then, a week later you would follow up and say, hey, did you get to that question, dear product analyst? And we say, yeah, not this week, but maybe next week. And then 2 weeks later, they ask, hey, is it still relevant? No, it isn't, right? So because we work in like 3-month cycles of OKRs, we have to be fast. And access to data and to a data analytics agent is actually what really boosts a lot of productivity. So it's not only me who can now do data analysis very quickly, but also the go-to-market team or whoever wants to do it can just kind of ask their questions to the data analytics agent. And there were some iterations on it, and but the data analyst and the data engineer were heavily involved in creating it, because it's freeing up their time from like the not so
fun stuff.
So right. So these
the
usual
not so
questions.
fun stuff. Yeah.
And the data analytics agent has like direct access to the data lake. It knows, like, it has access to all the tables. It knows the full documentation of all the tables and the fields and so on. And it knows like the basic KPIs we have. So if I would ask, for example, like want to evaluate for an opportunity, if I don't know, like how is the application to interview conversion in these two groups, which is like if someone applies and the application turns to an interview, is like an interesting data point for us. And if we see on companies or jobs that this happens within 2 weeks, we keep a track of that. And this is one of the KPIs that's very important in the funnel. And I can, it can just ask these questions, and it would give me not only the SQL query, but also it would like run the query, show me the graphs of it, and give me a little analysis of it, which is kind of magic.
This is so cool. Let me ask you one thing. Is it capable of basically connecting, let's say, a team's work, like building this feature through product metrics, product success metrics, up to business level KPIs? Like, is it capable of creating this connection? Because this is one of the most difficult connections to make, right? So how can we prove that building this product is going to actually move that business needle, right? So there's a long path, and is it capable of doing that?
I think this is always a challenge, right? Because you have this product metrics, and in connecting that to business outcomes is sometimes quite hard. I think, like, especially in recruiting marketplace, for Instaffo, it's a bit easier, because it always runs into the same goal. So the goal is to hire someone on the platform, which is the ultimate goal, to bring two sides together. And on the path to a hire, there's a lot of like metrics that all add up in a hire. But the problem is that this hire takes a lot of time, right? So if you would post a job today, and if I would apply to it, the hire might be like 2 or 3 months in the future, because of the time that recruiting takes. So that's why we have a pretty, I would say, sophisticated KPI tree, which kind of connects one thing to the other. And as I mentioned, like this interview is a very important point, and we can actually predict how much an additional interview would mean in revenue. So we have, like, on each level, we know what it means in euros. right? One additional job means X amount of euros potentially in revenue, another application, another interview, and all the way to the hire. So that's why it's like this is the context that the agent knows. I mean, anyway, in like before we make the decision for product topics, we try to drill it down to what is the expected revenue in 6 months, because I can add 5% of jobs to the platform. So that would be the expected revenue for 6 months. And one of the main factors why I would decide for an initiative or not. And so the analytics agents take one thing on the way to it. And as I mentioned, like this all comes down to a hire, but there are like thousands of other data points on the way to it. And the basis for that is actually having like all that data accessible in one basic or best case in one place. I think like right now it's also possible to connect data a bit better than it was before, but you need to have it accessible through like Google BigQuery and be able to write queries on it. Otherwise, it's a bit harder. So because this is the case, and I was very happy when I saw that it is when I joined, it's actually easy to connect that. And maybe I can also give an example of that. Something that go ahead.
Let's actually talk about my burning question, because I was going to ask it and then I asked something else. So let's talk about my burning question. This is a product podcast, so let's make sure that we make our homework and prepare for what's coming. Everybody's talking about it, and there's hype, there's buzz, there's like some influencers talking a lot. I don't know if I laugh at myself or not, I don't know. And then there's the real stuff. I'm talking about new ways of working. So there's this bubble, let's say, that says everything has changed and you have to prepare and it's going to be different and it's affecting all product roles, meaning product managers, designers, engineers, like everyone, researchers, everyone who's working on a product directly. And then there's the other camp that says, well, no, I mean, more important is still like some fundamental skills and stuff and so on and so forth. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. And I would like to hear from you. Would you tell me what has changed in the ways how you are working? Like who's on the team? And also, ideally in comparison to before, right? So how were you working before and how are you working now? Maybe you also have an example that you can walk us through, maybe. And attached to that, of course, like how have the roles changed, right? So what is different in that
I think
point as well?
We are in the middle of like this change. Like there is stuff happening. We're not at a point where like complete positions have been erased. But I think if I would now like think of how can I achieve more with a team or with the product org, I would not necessarily hire the next person, but rather think about how can we do things differently. I think that's the bottom line, and that's also the hard part. So if I would be on at the beginning of the career of product management, it would be a different game than it was 10 years ago, certainly, because the expectations are a bit higher. But also I think that curiosity really helps at that point, in which it always did in product. So previously, before AI, which is not really true, but 2 years was already with a bit of AI, but not so much. We would come together, obviously, we work in product trios. We would come together at the beginning of the OKR cycle, get like kind of a company challenge and figure out what kind of areas we would like to tackle, and then find our spot, like our objectives in it. And then,
so a product manager, designer, and a
tech lead. Yeah,
tech lead.
right. That's the 3 people we would do it with, and then we have 4 product teams, so 4 times 3 people like having their discussions and then aligning throughout it, like during the cycle, or especially at the beginning of the cycle when we start our opportunity solution tree. Then obviously it's a lot of data gathering and what do we have already, what do we know, what do we need to know, user interviews and stuff, and it's a lot of talking, right? So we try to gather a lot and discuss things, and then ultimately
The 12 of you?
no,
or
just the trio,
on
each
their
trio.
own?
So
Okay.
when we have finalized the OKRs, then we are all 12 are basically aligned. But then everyone goes into their topic. Sometimes there are overlaps, but we try to not have overlaps in the key results. So basically, we don't interfere, but we keep the discussion open, but in the trio. And so everyone could do a lot, but there was a lot of work between, like, for example, product and design, or design and development, because before AI, you would just out of each meeting, you write your meeting notes and you update things, and there's a lot of stuff that's happening, and a lot of stuff gets lost in the transfer of this, because let's be honest, humans are lazy, so every word you don't have to write, you don't write. Right. So also, then it goes into refinement. What I would do is, if I write this issue, you could also say PRD, but pretty straightforward scenarios with acceptance criteria. It would take me about, so once I'm clear that this is the solution, right, it would take me about 45 minutes to write one of these issues. So what I usually did is, I took the whole Tuesday blocked, and I write issues the whole day, because refinement is on Wednesday. And this kind of was a lot of pressure, right? Because I knew it has to be ready until the end of the day. I want the tech lead to check it. I want the designer to add the designs. So
and then your whole day working just on writing issues.
And
wow.
Yeah,
That's insane.
But
but I remember the times. Yes.
And it is, I think, a good written issue, or PRD, or feature request, whatever you want to call it, if it's really good, then it can take you until after the release and make a good product release, and you can, it can be the basis for a lot of things along the way. That's why we always try to keep this up to date. Even if we change something, everything is in there, and everything is kind of the Bible, right? So that's why I think it makes sense to spend a lot of effort on it. And then this basically changed a lot through AI, but we can talk about it in a second. And then it goes into development, goes its way, it takes time, and then you would release. And what we usually do is we demo the stuff to the whole company. And I just remember the first demos, or usually, demos are cool because you can showcase what you did, but you somehow need to connect to what was the initial idea and why did we do it. So you actually have to read through all of it again, or go through all meetings transcripts, or go to the Miro board and check the ideas and stuff. And it would take me about 45 minutes to prepare the demo for 2 or 3 topics. Just some bullet points, and then showing it in the product. And so this whole cycle, and then there's user communication and changelog and update emails and all that stuff. It takes a lot of time, because you always have to reconnect to the dots, doing one initiative at a time, but 3 or 4, and then going back and forth. And this has fundamentally changed with AI, because my feeling is that at least I, or we as a trio, can keep track of more things at the same time, because we don't lose this context, even though we're switching. And then what remained, and I think that's also, if we look at how is the work, the feature process, or the work in the product trio working with AI, how is it right now? I think it's still a lot of talking. That's very important, because these ideas we discuss, the interactions, it's basically the same, the same process, just that along the way, some stuff got easier, because you get better access to data, you get easier access to, you don't need to spend so much time on writing things down, because it's being written down for you and transcribed, and then I can
by the AI,
right? You can actually kind of transfer it. And maybe I can just explain a bit how the process, for this cycle, beginning of the year, the first time that I did the whole, kind of the whole cycle experience with AI, with Cloud Code. And
sure, that would be great. So I'm very curious how you
It's funnily something that we right now are kind of testing as product managers, so everyone's doing their style of it. But the idea is certainly to have something that we could just take off the drawer and use next cycle. So what it does, it's actually and there are a lot of things that can be automated, maybe if we want to adopt this. So it's basically the same flow, right? So we gather, we discuss what could be the topics for the OKRs, and then we finalize OKRs. But one main differentiator right now is that we are using one agent to prepare for the cycle. The agent knows all the current challenges. It knows the history, what we did. It knows where we want to go, and it knows the basic KPIs of each area. So in terms of marketplace, this means like...
And it knows it because it has access to all of your systems.
Yeah, we would prepare this agent specifically for the cycle preparation. And it gets like some documents that we would prepare beforehand. Like, for example, what we would share learnings from the previous cycle. We would share A/B test results. We would share all this stuff, goes into one Google Doc, for example. Then we would have like the general like company goals or direction, another Google Doc. So it's like maybe a list of 5 to 6 Google Docs that are attached. And the agent's task is to support the product trio in finding like their sweet spot for objectives and key results. So that I think that's very helpful, because if you only start thinking about it or working on it at the beginning of the cycle, it's a bit tight, right? So we usually do the preparations 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks before the cycle starts. Actually, I'm already finishing up the previous cycle, so I don't have time to really prepare. So that's really handy, and it really helped to get the KRs ready. But then the next challenge is like, you need baselines for the KRs. So you need to know how much can we improve? What's the current baseline? What is it actually a good KR? Blah, blah, blah. Do we already have this number, or is it invented? And if we invent it, do we really want to do it at another KPI? So this is something I could just then run the data analysis agent with, and then figure out a baseline. And it would even write me the SQL query to have the perfect chart with the baseline, the prediction, and this stuff. So previously, way too much work, and it would have to, someone else would have done it, or have to have done it, because I would not be capable of writing SQL queries. So this only the start is already like, but then this cycle, I decided that every meeting we have in the trio, every discovery meeting, will be recorded, transcribed, and summarized, and will be added to...
You're working remotely, right? So the whole trio is remote.
Yes. Yeah. Completely remote. That's an advantage, because everything's going through wires. So it's transcribed, and it goes into this one specific folder. Like I have this one project for the cycle that captures all the conversations I have in the trio, but also with stakeholders. We started building like the OST the basic way. So we discussed the topics. We tried to figure out what pain points do we already know. We started talking to customers and added opportunities along the way. And naturally would come to a point where the amount of opportunities or pain points you would add is just too big to keep up with it. And I experienced that, I don't know, maybe you too, if you go to a Miro board and you have like added all these opportunities, and it's like it's getting... And then you start forgetting the stuff that's right or left. So very, very annoying. But I still think it makes sense to come up with that stuff on your own. I would not recommend doing it with AI, because AI just takes the middle ground, and the best thing that comes to mind is then there. But it's just like average. So you want to have the really outstanding opportunities that you capture from interviews. I think that's important. But it can...
I could plug in a promotion for the company that I'm advising now. Vistally does exactly that, and they are going into beta, and I saw it yesterday what they have, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, nice.
It does a really good job.
I'd like to have a look, because I think...
And they work together with Teresa Torres on that, so it's
cool.
Really good. Have a look.
Yeah, I mean, this is the stuff you want to do. Yeah, I mean, 100% helpful to... Then you want to you need to make this manageable. And so we built this basically, I would say, like repository of opportunities where it's kind of just knows more of the context that would be on the Miro board. So first of all, I would give it an ID because I want to track that opportunity through the whole cycle. But also I want to know along the way, what have we learned? What are assumptions? What ideas did we have? Like what kind of solutions, and when did we discuss that? And it all lives pretty basic in a CSV file and in a kind of a change log. So Cloud Code, I wrote a little kind of skill or command for it. I want to update the OST. I just kind of tell it where the transcript is and give it some context. I usually do it with dictation. I'm now at 136,000 words, which is, I don't know, it told me somewhere how much books I already wrote by dictating, but I don't have to type. And with this, it would like kind of add some bits and pieces to my OST, and I can share it with the team. And this already helps me in a lot of places, because if I want to report on progress on the OKRs, I always know which opportunity we're working on. I can connect it to GitLab issues or to the work the code we are producing. And if anyone has any question, like also in the trio, like we can answer it. But the problem right now we are experiencing is that this, because it's Cloud Code and it's local, it's working on my machine only. So I need a way to share it with the team easily, and we are discussing ways to do it at the moment. But it's not a big problem because I can still like update it in FigJam, but it's if you ever have tried to import a CSV file into FigJam, it's not fun. It's basically limited to, I don't know, some 1,000 cells.
Again, Vistally has connections to Miro and FigJam, just saying.
Very good.
But anyway, so you have the opportunity solution tree, and that's the basis for the discussion with your trio. What happens next? How do you get together? Like, are you taking the opportunity and then vibe coding something and showing to customers, or like this is one version that I hear. The other version is no, we're still going through depths like in the past, but now with other tools that makes our lives easier. Like, which camp are you in?
So I genuinely believe that you can actually ship code without coding, but you cannot ship the complex stuff, and that's actually what we are kind of pushing the limits on. So we would. So if it's just a pain point, obviously we would go the next step, talk to customers, synthesize the input and figure out some of the ideas. I still like to do like the basic user flows on an opportunity canvas with the team, and it's like figure out like what's the user doing here and there, and what's where are the friction points, because it's always more fun in the group, and there's always, if there are more perspectives, then you get real insights from it. The good thing is, while we're talking, we're recording, and this insight is saved. So we get to a point where we say like, "Whoa, this is great," and we save us the trouble of writing this down. But we have that information locked in, and the discussion is very fruitful. What is like kind of comes natural for me is that before we enter any meeting, we are prepared. We know what we're talking about. Someone has prepared something, obviously, otherwise it doesn't really work. But this is a given for me, and we would still like kind of discuss the possible solutions we have. And then depends a bit on like how complicated is it. If it's something that's really pretty straightforward, I would just say, okay, let's do it. Let's try it. Because, for example, we discovered that duplicating jobs for recruiters is a feature that could make job creation a lot easier. So we discovered throughout our sessions that we are not tracking how many people are actually duplicating jobs. So I wrote the issue and chipped the code for the tracking, because it's just feature tracking. I don't have to,
like you did.
Yeah, it's like I did it, right? So it's no developer involved.
Cloud Code or
right? So
in Cloud Code.
Cloud Code, yeah. I would always write the issue like so we know what to do, and then I would give Claude the feature request and say, let's go ahead and implement it, and then it implements it, and then creates a merge request, and someone else can test it.
Okay. The issue you write in Jira?
Yeah, actually, I would write it with my issue writer agent because yeah, there's an agent for everything. So we use
issue writer agent writes the issue.
Yeah, we are using GitLab, same as Jira. We have this pretty like a standardized way how like a feature request should look like, so that every information is covered. The agent knows all this and gets my voice input. I wrote these in with a LangDoc agent, and the LangDoc agent through MCP can create the issue, and then issue is there. And usually this would just be refined and go the regular way. But some issues are so small, we label them with vibe codable, which is actually like, so you could filter like all the issues and see, okay, what's vibe codable, and you could just pick one and vibe code it. Just
anyone, like you as a PM, the designer, sales, marketing, like anyone.
Yeah, hopefully not sales and marketing. I think we're not at that point yet, but maybe we'll get there. We don't let sales or marketing access the code base, but I think it's already stretching the boundaries that they let me submit code. And I asked the CTO, and like, can I had no idea how, but can I, try it on my own? And he said, yeah, go ahead. Just find someone who would like to review the code. And I did. Someone reviewed it. But at first I had to figure out, how do I actually create merge requests, because I have no idea. So I did all this with Claude Code, and I told him, like, I want to implement this feature. This is the feature. How can I do it? And was just guiding me through it. And after that, someone told me, hey, we have an agent for that. So you don't have to, do it all on your own.
Merge request agent.
Like that. The feature request is there, right? So, and then in our code base, luckily we have some agents for different jobs that are orchestrated. And this is something that's really, really helpful. And you obviously need someone who can do it. Like someone from the development team would have to take this step and figure out, how can we implement agents and like agent accessibility into our code base. But we have agents for like more complex tasks and more simple tasks. So for example, the simple task is what I would usually use is if I want to add like feature tracking, or I don't know, today we want to merge a new feature update that appeals to users, which is also vibe coded. Previously, the backend developer would take like, I don't know, 4 hours, 2 hours to do it. So this agent would like create the front end. Usually the easy stuff is the front end stuff. Create the front end or the back end code where it's needed. There's an agent who reviews it, and then I can push it to the test branch and then try it myself. So I have completely skipped this step of local machine, because I'm not capable, or I don't want to, put all this stuff on my computer. I tried, I failed, so I just test on the cloud, not local. I think any other developer would do it differently, because it's just faster if you test it local. But I just wasn't able to create all the dependencies and install that stuff. So I just skipped that step, and it doesn't bother me. So I just have to wait 10 minutes longer until the testing environment is ready. And then there's this discussion, like, is this really a job of a product manager? Like, I see this on LinkedIn all the time. It's like, yeah, you shouldn't.
Yes, but before we get into that, let's check out the other roles. What else is happening? So who does design? In which way have the roles changed in some way? Like, let's continue on this. Okay, so the easy stuff is the stuff that you just ship.
Yeah.
The complex stuff is still working like before, like designer would design, would check in with the engineer, and
I think that's also
and engineers would build.
Yeah, exactly. So I think still, like, having a design is really crucial. Also, if you do it with AI, because it's like kind of the markers how it should work, and there's a lot of information in the designs. If we have like kind of bigger ideas, we obviously create prototypes with whatever we have. Right now we're using Figma Make, surprisingly very beautiful prototypes, because it has access to the component library, so it knows exactly like how elements are looking, what colors are used. So the prototypes already look very nice. Sometimes I also take them on to user interviews to just see the reactions and discuss with people about it. Then they have to explain them that it's not ready yet, even though it looks ready. I think we didn't have that problem before AI. Prototypes usually looked not so nice, or they were just click dummies. But this is where the designer comes in. And I really like that designers are doing this on their own. So they are iterating on different prototypes. Before they put effort into high fidelity designs, they take the step of just trying it out. And along the way,
in which way, trying it out, in which way? In Figma,
Figma
Jam.
Make, they would create the
Yeah,
prototype.
Figma Make, yeah.
Right, they would create the prototype and can click through it and see how this would how this would work and look like.
And then they would take it to the customers.
Yeah, and then I think I don't know if this gap is already closed, but I think there are ways to do it. But again, like so many tools, transforming this into then a ready to develop design is a step that takes some effort from the designers, and then we do the regular handoff to development. I think this role is also changing a bit because as a designer, I can now access like all the information I previously had to collect the hard way. It's like, how is the app working right now? What fields are actually used? So, for example, right now we have a challenge where we want to design a flow. There's already an existing flow, and there's also like a schema of fields in the background. And as a designer, it's very helpful for me to know which fields, are there actually. How many input does the user have to give? Did I actually consider everything? Like previously you would just have to compare designs and the old interface and the new ones, and someone has to figure out, oh, there's a field missing. And in the old days, this was the developer when he was like coding this stuff. And now you can actually like figure this out on your own and say, okay, like check, did I consider everything? Yes or no, what's missing, right? So this is already helpful. But I think also designers have the chance, and we see this. There's some examples at Instaffo already where they ship their own components. So they want to, for example, designers always have the problem. They want to implement stuff that you don't have a component for, and it takes a lot of time to implement this component. Like maybe even just a new color or gradient or like a new element, and they are more and more able to do this themselves, like create this component in the component library, make this nearly, we are at the point where they can prepare to a point where the developer can implement the component into the design system. But I think we're not far away from them doing it on their own. And then development process is getting easier and easier. And the complicated stuff is more like writing this backend code and also the architecture for it, because that's obviously, if it's below the surface, it's might be a bit more complex and more things to consider. So I would expect more from designers than just doing design. And I think designers, the good designers are already adopting. They are, also using Cloud Code. They try to use whatever is accessible to them, and maybe do already some product work. So like if I don't have to be present when the designer shows his prototype to a customer, why do I have to, right? So maybe that's but I think we're not there yet. That's like all merged, right? Everyone's doing the job of everyone, and I also don't think that everyone is capable of everyone's job. So like this idea of everyone's becoming the product builder is a nice idea, and I think there will be a lot of people that are capable of it, but not everyone. And to be honest,
which takes us into the topic of is this the job of the PM, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, please.
Yeah, to be honest, it's more fun to work together, right? So if everyone would be like the solo entrepreneur product builder, that's not so much fun in it. But yeah, then there's this discussion like, is this the job of whatever? And I think, yeah, who says it's not, right? So if you can do it, why shouldn't you? So I do a lot of that stuff because I'm curious. I don't know, sometimes after hours, because I just want to know if it works for Instaffo or for other ideas I have. I just sit down at 8:30 and try it out, and then because I know if we can do more of that easy stuff faster, we can also spend more time on the more complex things that have more impact. Because I mean, bugs are the best example. They are so annoying and they always get pushed down in the backlog. No one likes to fix bugs, I guess. But some of them like are so easy to fix, where you just have like, I don't know, like the button color is wrong, or this button is not using the component. All that stuff, it's just, they can be fixed very easily. But you don't want to have this in the backlog, because it doesn't really have a tangible impact. It's just like the user experience would be a bit better, but would it be so worse if the button is, wrong color of purple? I don't know.
Okay, nice. Thank you. So that's about the topic, ways of work. Yes, you want to
Yeah,
say
I think
at some point.
we
Yes.
forgot about one big bottleneck. Or this is the challenge I see. So if everyone's now shipping code, someone has to test it and has to review it and has to.
Right. That's actually part of my questions, right? I forgot to ask that. Yes.
I'm not sure.
Things are shifting, but it doesn't mean, yes, it was, later on, but I forgot about it. Yes, absolutely. That's another thing that I heard from someone else. Like, yes, we're fast in coding now, but now the real bottleneck is reviewing the code, because now code comes from everywhere and the engineers have to review it, and they don't have context partially, and they struggle with reviewing. And now what we've gained in the front, we added it to the back. So what's your take on this?
We recently did a survey on it with the developers, actually an AI adoption survey. And in the last 6 months, the usage of AI for code review has increased a lot. It's like the biggest increase in all the categories. So more and more developers are also using AI to review code. But in general, that's right. I mean, you need someone who can review the code, because I can just review like the interface, right, if it works or not, but I cannot check if the code is right. I mean, you get into it because you read more code if you start using Cloud Code, so you see the difference, you see the diffs, you see where but I cannot understand it, right? So I cannot test the logic. So that's one bottleneck. And also you need the acceptance of the developers that why should I review your slop AI code, right? So what's my incentive? So that's something you need to figure out. So again, they need to see the advantage of it. So like, okay, I don't have to write that code, but yeah. So I think that's one thing. But the other part that's coming afterward is QA, like quality assurance. Like at one point we had like so many issues lined up for QA that was just impossible to get it through in a few days. And it was like, yeah, there's so many changes awaiting this approval. We are kind of limiting ourselves, but we still want to keep the quality like excellent. So we cannot just surpass the quality assurance. So that's also a big bottleneck. And
what did you do about it?
Yeah, I just had to wait longer. Yeah, we started discussing if for some things we might,
QA agent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I saw this the other day on Lovable, and there's like this tool that you can use where actually the agent would open the page, make screenshots, and analyze it, like click buttons and analyze what's working and what's not working. That's exactly what QA is doing, right? I mean, also we're not there yet, but I also think if you have like approval from the code owner that this is working fine and it's a minor change, you might have a policy that allows you to merge it without QA approval. And in the future, I think there will be a lot of ways to make this a lot easier, test on different machines, and so on. Yeah, but the QA bottleneck and also the review bottleneck is real.
Which is also a segue to my next area of curiosity, let's say, which is, you mentioned you need incentives for engineers to review now, right? So far, every AI adoption story that I heard mentioned something like resistance. Like it didn't take off just because, just because everyone is motivated the same way, which is okay. It's not judging. It's, we are humans, and every human needs a different type of motivation or different incentive or in like something that makes them take the step, right? So did this happen at Instaffo as well, or was there resistance when you kicked it off? And if yes, how did you address it? Like, how did you make people really try that stuff out and play with it and figure out if they like it or not and what they can do with it?
We see the most resistance, I would say, in the areas where the AI work is like very important. For example, in development, because I mean the early outputs that we got like a year or so, they were really not good. Like the code was just not good, right? So there was early on there was like okay, this is AI generated, not so good, right? But early on, also,
And that sticked probably, right?
yeah,
And
I
that
guess
sticked in the
that's the
minds, and it
point.
had to be converted.
Then if the AI is becoming more and more helpful in your own work, I think this increases the acceptance and also reduces the resistance there. There's a difference between, I think there are like two areas. One is you use AI like to autocomplete your code, which is I think the basic, or you use AI to like really write your code or really create that code. Like I wouldn't say YOLO mode, but it can do a lot more.
Kind of.
And to take this step, you're kind of giving away a lot of, I would say, control, and maybe also the stuff you are known for as a developer is kind of democratized. So you it's like not only you who can do it. Maybe there's a bit of fear in it. But I mean, from my perspective, it's pretty obvious that it's going to change, and you have to decide if you come along or not. And if you don't change your ways of working, you will kind of be left behind a little bit, because there will be people who can do it. And yeah, I mean, that's the challenge.
And that Instaffo, what did you do with that resistance? Like, how did you combat it? I've heard different things. Like, I heard something from a team who said, we will keep our expectation that like we will continue expecting the same level of output, outcome, whatever from every team, but we will not count with the current FTE, but +1. We will count with +1. So any team, like if a team has actually 5 members, we will see this team as a 6-member team, one of them being AI in whatever way you will use it. So we also allocate this cost to it. That means whatever you want to ship, you now have to calculate with more costs to ship that stuff, which also means we expect a higher ROI indirectly, right? Then there were teams, or there were companies who were saying things like, we did a full tutorial month, and everybody was allowed to just play around with it with no consequences at all, and we just allowed as many tokens as people wanted, and heavily invested in that. And so there are different ways of incentivizing staff to try that out and adopt it. So which way did Instaffo go?
I mean, first of all, there's no limit at all for you. Recently, someone asked if he can use the 1 million token limit. That's not a problem. But I think that's for people who are encouraged anyway. They are doing it. But and I think in general at Instaffo, because I don't want to say it out loud, but I'm one of the oldest there. So like the people are people are already like more at the more at the center of this movement than I am, but they are already adopting it by heart. I think there's not a big resistance, and we are just talking now developers. But if we look at the whole company, everyone's more or less pretty much aware that this is something you need for your future career. There's no way around it. I think the challenge is more like, I see the challenges with senior staff. Like if you have some people who like, I did this the same way the last 10 years, then it's maybe a bit more challenging. But also I think maybe this is then not the right circumstance for you, because everyone else is moving fast and you're expected to move fast as well. I don't know a real solution for it, other than like kind of trying to motivate these people to leverage that. because there's so many opportunities in it. So how do we incentivize it? I mean, there's not a real like program that would incentivize you. It's just like a given. So like there is the agents in the code base. There is the access to Claude Code, which like runs in your IDE, and it's your decision to use it or not. And I think it's
So there's no upskilling program either.
no, because it's kind of like I mean, I don't know if you've seen this, the courses to learn Cloud Code that are emerging on the web. Most of them are actually like learn it while you do it, and I think that's exactly how you do it, right? So what I think the biggest challenge is having like creating the trust to the model, like learning how a model reacts and how you can what you can expect and what you can't expect. Like basically learn how big of a task can I give it that it can still manage, so that I don't have much more work afterwards than I would have not using AI. And if this trust is there, you can go ahead and do it. And you see like people left and right that are actually doing things they couldn't do before. So that might also encourage you to level up a little bit. Yeah. So I think we don't have this incentive or resistance, no incentive, non-resistance problem, because people are more like, I wouldn't say I native, because who is, but it's very open-minded.
But they're curious enough to figure it out. Okay. I have 2 more questions, and then we'll get to the end.
Go ahead.
Okay, one question is, how did you measure success of the AI adoption? It's a weird question, I know. It's a bit like, how would you follow up on whether AI adoption was successful or not? And that starts with basically the pre-question: what did success mean to Instaffo when they started, or when you started with AI adoption? What were you expecting? What were your criteria to call it a success? I mean, adoption rate is a thing or not. I heard both, but then that's just one example, right? So what were the success criteria that you would call it a success, and how did you measure that success?
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm pretty sure there are multiple levels to it.
Yeah, I think like I also found this question is quite interesting, because it's I think it's like you can't measure it the same way throughout all the functions in a company, because like if like for customer facing teams, it's just a different kind of effect than for the product org. I mean, we do measure like AI adoption for the product org, like how often do you find it helpful, how much of your code is written by AI, which tools do you use, like all that stuff, to get a sense of the adoption of AI and the acceptance, which I think is important.
So for product managers, basically, as well, product managers and designers as well, how much code
No, in this case, it's only for developers. Yeah. So we ask only developers at this point. So, but I think the bar will rise for product managers as well. So we might be included into this at one point. But because this is so different, I think it's also not so easy to just say, okay, this is what's the return on invest. But just for reference, the example I mentioned earlier with the Langdog tool that we've implemented, so that everyone has access to all models that we enable. This is kind of a no-brainer, because it was already cheaper to have that instead of all these separate subscriptions. So this is like there's immediate cost reduction, and it's a good point. I mean, the stuff that we share, so we share a lot of use cases and what we use AI for. I think we're at a point where everyone has just understood, and there's but where I think the level of usage is, on the one hand, a lot of people still use the conversational AI, like use it as someone, hey, I have this, can you give me something back? Which is maybe I would say the surface level, but not everyone is like creating their kind of like I would say leveraging it to a point where you use it to fulfill your ideas or something, right? So I think that's still something that's a bit too complicated to actually do. So what do I mean by it? I really like the idea of enabling customer-facing teams, for example, to solve their own problems. Like, so I don't know, you want to find a way how to allocate accounts to a different account manager. This should be based on what's the workload of the account manager, blah blah blah, like different criteria. Why not write an app for it that can do it, or an algorithm that is implemented in the CRM? I think that's nothing fancy anymore. You could actually do it, or you can even just like create a mini app that can do it for you, like with Lovable even. I think
Is it happening? Like, are people doing it?
at this point I think we're not there yet, because there's still this gap of adoption. Like, I go to this level of conversational AI, but I don't go to a level of like creating really products with it. Maybe that's also the reason why we are product managers and the others are not. So we try to build everything just because we need it. But sometimes it's like pretty obvious that you could just do it on your own. So we did this like this idea, like what I just mentioned with allocating accounts, and it's doable. And if it would be a bit more integrated into like the tools you have, like maybe the CRM or whatever you use, then everyone could actually do it a bit more. And I think that's still something where we could be better. I don't know if others are there, but there's a lot of potential in it to do it. And same goes also for other disciplines like marketing, like creating like landing pages, or like the tracking for it, or whatever you want to do. Like I don't know, for example, creating creatives more with AI in a structured way. I think that's coming because the level of you need to know like all the details and all the like you need to know how to code basically is going down. And I see a lot of funny things happening where people develop their own tools just because they need it. Like, for example, one example is if you record a call with Granola, you could just ask Cloud Code to just pull the transcripts via API and save it to your computer. Why not? The other day I talked to a product manager who just built a skill to get an update of all the Jira changes every time he asks, right? So people are building their own tools already, but it's a specific set of people who can do it right now. And if this set expands, then we are at a point where I think it's really getting really interesting.
So I heard something like adoption is measured or is checked, let's say, per function. There's no generalization. I heard something like if I had to translate it, I would call it something like time to output has decreased. You just mentioned the marketing team, right? Or in general, when you write simple code yourself, well, with help of the AI, but like in general, time to output seems to have decreased, basically, so improved. I heard about the survey of, hey, how useful do you find using AI in your work? I heard specifically for engineers, percentage of code generated with the help of AI. And so that's, if I had to summarize, that's basically you saying that really you have to look into this function by function, department by department kind of, instead of having an all-over success measurement for the company. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's because the disciplines are so different. That's a way to go. I think it wouldn't hurt to just kind of measure AI adoption overall, but it's then generalizing a lot, because you don't have the same expectations for the different areas in your company.
And I'm very curious if there's like any number attached, as in so much cost saved or so much revenue made because of those connections that I mentioned, like reduced time to output and those kind of things. But that's, I guess that you don't have access to this information, so I will stop bothering you on
No,
this
I think
topic.
this is also very hard to measure. So we, as far as I know, we don't have any KPI that's showing it, because there's so much incremental change. As I mentioned, like left and right, you have so much stuff changing. also in systems, you don't, it's just happening. Like as I mentioned, HubSpot adding AI features that is increasing productivity. It's not really measurable, because I'm indirectly adopting AI without wanting it. It's just helpful. But yeah, I think that you can put a number. You could put a number on it, but for us, I think that's not the. I mean, in the end, it would still contribute to the company's success and the best business metrics. So, and which portion of it is through AI? I think this comes naturally. So we don't have a number for it.
And before I get to my very last question, we also wanted to touch point on this topic of, hey, how did you actually select the tools that you were using? Because every week there's a new tool, and I think migrating from one tool to another is just nightmare. So you have to pick something that you bet on that will exist in the next 3, 4, 5 years, right? So how did you go about it? Maybe very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think the good thing is that the tools we are using are pretty flexible. So obviously you want a solution that is future proof. And some I mentioned Langdoc a lot, but there are other tools that do the same. That just give you like universal access to different LLMs. I think one of the
like Cursor, for example.
Yeah, like Cursor or any agentic tool, but also if you're more focusing on the conversational AI solution or building own agents, it's always good to not rely too much on one provider, because if you need to switch your whole organization from OpenAI to Anthropic, then it's going to be complicated. But then again, like the costs of changing a tool are also not too high, because I mean, you lose the memory, but you can keep the agents. So agents are basically just the instructions you copy paste, and we copy pasted all the instructions, and we didn't lose a lot, I would say. So I think that's like the changing costs are not so high anymore as they were previously. If you logged into a SaaS, that's a bit different. And then in terms of like product development, switch a lot actually between Lovable and Bold and Figma Make, because I think it's good to look at everything. And then if it costs like 10 to 20 euros, then that's not the big of a deal. The question is like, what tool do you roll out for everyone? And I think there it comes in handy if it's either like packaged in something you already use, like very practical advice, just if there is a solution that's already packaged, like with Figma, it's like Figma Make, it's packaged in. So there's like, it's a no-brainer to use it. They don't enforce any limits right now. Like there's a very specific limits if you use it a lot, but other than that, they don't really charge it in addition, which is very helpful. And everything else is just more work to do. Like I would have to have another subscription, another tool, but it's still good, I think, to look at these things and try it out, and then it's a certain point decide. And then sometimes it's just people, it's, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's grassroots. So everyone starts using this, and okay, maybe we should make it a standard. That happened with Cursor. That now happened with Claude Code, and so this is becoming the standard, the new standard, which then has to be officially announced, and everyone needs to have access. But yeah, I think what does not work is just enforcing like one tool that's not generally accepted. That's not really helping.
Final question, and then we're at an end. If you were to advise a peer, what would be the biggest lesson that you would share to do or not do?
Yeah, I had to think about that a little bit. And you mentioned also like what not to do. And I think that's the biggest advice is just don't think about what not to do. Just do whatever you can and try out what you can do. In terms of like figuring out how this works, I think it's like it's a personal challenge for everyone to figure that out. So no one will serve you like this is how you use AI, right? You can learn from others, but you have to adopt it yourself. And also this, I mean, at least this is what I think is really helping to increase adoption, is let people try things out. Like don't lock them in, don't exclude them from Copilot in your Microsoft subscription or like from any other tool. But, and I haven't mentioned that before, but I should. It's like just give the basic understanding of like what the security settings should be. Like if you're using ChatGPT in your free account, make sure your settings are set to not training the model, not sharing it for research purposes, all this stuff. If you're using some kind of data that's related to your company, and you should of course know what data to put in there or not. So anonymized data and so on. I think these are the basics. Other than that, don't be too scared to try it out, because the worst thing that can happen is that you have to do it again manually, right? So
Wonderful. Thank you, Jan, for taking the time to talking to me and sharing your experience. Thanks a lot. And well, where can people or how can people ask more questions to you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, you find me on LinkedIn. So my name is pretty common, so there's a lot of Jan Werners, but search for the one who says hands-on product manager, then you will maybe find me.
And I will add the link. I will make sure that people can find the link to your
Perfect.
profile.
Thank you.